Today I'll be showing you how to sew a roll-up makeup bag. I've got my brushes ready to be organized. If you would like to see more content like this, then please hit the subscribe button so that you'll be notified every time I post a new video. Let's get started. Today I'm using leftover fabric scraps, so this white material will be the interior of the bag, this pattern fabric will be the exterior, and I have some ribbon for the ties. I'll start by using a ruler underneath my brushes to get an idea of what size to cut the fabric pieces, and I'll also add a few inches to the top to create a fold-over flap. Here are the measurements that I'm using on this particular bag, but you may need measurements that are bigger or smaller depending on what you're organizing. I'm cutting the first exterior piece here at 15 by 13 and a half. And now the lining piece also at 15 by 13 and a half. And this last piece I'm cutting at 9 by 13 and a half. Now I have the smaller interior piece, so I'm just going to fold it in half lengthwise and just get it as straight as I can. And I'll just give it a quick press. And I'm just going to fold this over just maybe 1/4 of an inch, and I'll give it a quick press. And I'll do the same for the other side. Now I have the folded piece positioned on top of the other inside piece, and this piece here is left to right is the longer side. So that is the 15 inches going from there to there. And I left about an inch on each side. Now I'm pinning this folded piece onto the other interior piece, and when I sew them together, I'm going to leave about 1.5 inches up from the bottom. This way, when we put the brushes in, the brushes won't fall all the way to the bottom. They'll have 1.5 inches of space underneath them. Now that I have this piece pinned in place, I'm ready to sew it. So I'm lining up the edge of the fabric with the edge of this end plate, and that will give me about 1.5 inches where my needle comes down for the sew line. Before I measure out the individual pockets, I'm going to sew up the sides. I've already sewn this one up, and I'm just going to stitch that up. Now that I've sewn up the sides of the pocket area, I had to determine how wide to make each individual pocket. So I've already determined using my little ruler that I'm going to make each of these wider brushes have a pocket of 1.75 inches, and these will have 1.25 inch pocket, and the skinny ones will get about 1 inch pocket. So your measurements will probably be different depending on what you're putting in here, but you'll just want to tally up your numbers just to make sure that the overall length doesn't exceed the margin here. Now I'm using green chalk to mark off each pocket line that I'll be sewing. So I've already done the first one. I've got my marker set at 1 3/4 inch, and I make one mark at the top and one mark at the bottom, and then I just draw the line. And I'm just going to finish all the way down, and I'll be back. And I'm going to start sewing the first pocket, so I have my needle all the way down to where I want to start the sew line. Just doing a back stitch. And I'm just following the line. And I'm just going slightly past it and doing a little back stitch. I have the exterior fabric positioned right side up, and it's positioned where left to right is 15 inches going across. And I have 2 pieces of the ribbon cut to about 17 inches each. So I'm going to take one on top of the other and just line it up at the edge here. I'll pin the ribbon to the fabric in these 2 spots, then we'll be adding another layer of fabric on top and sewing them together. The ribbon at the edge will be sewn between the 2 layers. The ribbon in the center will be pinned in place so that it doesn't fall into the sewing area, and then we'll leave an opening so we can flip this all inside out. Now we'll take our interior piece and we'll place that right side down. So when we place it, the pockets will actually be facing the right side of the exterior piece. And I'll just line that up evenly so that all the edges match up. We can start pinning it all the way around. The only thing is to leave a few inches at the bottom, maybe 4 or 5, so that you can flip it inside out. I left about 5 inches here so that I'd be able to turn it inside out. And you can see there are the 2 pieces of ribbon pinned between the 2 layers. I'm using a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And just back stitch. When I get close to the end, I just sink the needle down into the material, lift the presser foot up, and then pivot the material around, and then just line it up again on my 1/4 inch seam allowance and keep going. Now that all the sides are sewn together, I can actually stick my hand in here and flip it inside out. But I don't want to get stuck by this pin, so I'll take that out first. And that was holding down the ribbon. And I'm just turning it inside out. I'm using my pinky to poke the points through a little bit. And there's the ribbon all sewn in. And now I am just going to iron this flat. When I get to the part that we left unsewn, I'm just going to fold both pieces of material in just a little bit, just so that it really lines up with the rest of the sewn part. And I'm just going to press that down flat. As I was editing the video, I realized that I lost the clip that showed how I closed up the opening that we left on the bag. So I'm going to take you over to it and show you what I did. So as you can see, I ran a zigzag stitch all across the bottom, and that closes up that opening, and it also gives it a finished look. But basically, you can use any decorative stitch that you would like. That's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.